Hello students, welcome back to your video class, and today we are continuing your lesson number 4 in the kingdom of fools. We have started this chapter in your previous video and we have read some part of this chapter, and this is a beautiful story of a king who always made some strange decisions and strange judgments. So they made a different type of rule in their kingdom, as we have read that they started that all the activities of the daytime they started at night, and they slept in the daytime. As soon as the sun rises, they go to sleep, and as soon as the sun sets, they start the daily activities. They open the shops at night, and also so this way the things going, and there came a saint and disciple. They started living there, and we have read some part of the chapter in which one that disciple, uh, the guru of that disciple said that this place is not good or safe to live, because these people can do anything, anytime, do harm to them. But the disciple refused to go with the guru, and the guru went away, and disciple stayed in that kingdom. And once, after a few days, a thief entered into a house, broke into house, and the wall of the house fell on him and he died. And the brother of the thief reached to the king and appealed to appealed to give the judgment and compensation. And this way the story goes on. Then the king called that the house owner. The house owner said that the wall was not built properly by the builder, and the wall was very poor, so it fell on the thief. That is not my fault. Then the king called that builder, brick layer, and he called that builder who built that wall. And the builder also said, made some excuse or gave in his clarification that the time he was making the wall, one girl was coming and down in the street and she distracted the mind, so he could not make the wall properly. Then the king called that girl. However, that girl had become now very old lady, because the wall was built so long ago, and this thing happened after many years. So that lady that came to the court of the king, and let's continue. So the king asked that girl. She thought for a moment and said, that girl who was going in the street, and her anklet was distracting the mind of the bricklayer. My lord, wait, I know now why I was walking up and down the street. I had given some gold to the goldsmith to make some jewelry for me. He was lazy scoundrel. He made so many excuses, said that he would give it now and he would give it then, and so on all day. He made me walk up and down to his house a dozen times. That was when the bricklayer saw me. It is not my fault, Lord, it's the damn goldsmith's fault. Then that lady said that it was not my fault that I was walking up and down in the street, because I gave some gold to the goldsmith and he made me make the rounds because he did not give me the jewelry on time. So he said that you come tomorrow or now and then. So I was making round of him. So this is not my fault if the bricklayers distracted mind. So this all fault is of goldsmiths. Poor thing, she is absolutely right, thought the king. Weighing the evidence, we have got the real culprit at last. Get goldsmith wherever he is hiding at once. Then he sent for the goldsmith. The king's bailiffs reached for the goldsmith who was hiding in a corner of his shop. When he heard the accusation against him, he had his own story to tell. My lord, he said, I am a poor goldsmith. It's true I made this dancer come many times to my door. I gave her excuses because I could not finish making her jewelry before I finished the rich merchant's orders. They had a wedding coming and they would not wait. You know how impatient rich men are. Then goldsmith again made his own story that I could not, yes, I'm right. You are right that I could not make this dancer girl's jewelry on time because I had to make the merchant's jewelry before her work because he had a wedding near. So you know how these rich men cannot wait. So I had to prepare his work. Who is this rich merchant who kept you from finishing this poor woman's jewelry? Made her walk up and down, which distracted this bricklayer, which made a mess of all his wall, which has now fallen on an innocent man and killed him. Can you name him? The goldsmith named the merchant, and he was none other than the original owner of the house whose wall had fallen. The story has twisted now. And the goldsmith named that person the merchant whose house wall had fallen. And now justice had come full circle. Though the king begged to the merchant, when he was rudely summoned back to the court, he arrived crying, "It wasn't me, but my father who ordered the jewelry. He's dead, I am innocent." Because that person's father had ordered the jewelry, that merchant's father. So he said, "I am innocent, my father ordered the jewelry." But the king consulted his ministers and ruled decisively. "It's true, your father is the true murderer. He is dead, but somebody must be punished in his place. You have inherited everything from that criminal father of yours. His riches as well as his sins I knew at once, even when I first set your eyes on you, that you were at the root of this horrible crime. You must die." And he ordered a new stake. Stake is, when someone is hanged to death, this is called stake. The rope prepared for the hanging, for the death penalty. And to be made ready for the execution, as the servant sharpened stake and got it ready for finally impaling of the criminal, it occurred to the minister that the rich merchant was somehow too thin to be properly executed to the stake. He appealed the king's common sense. The king too worried about it. "What shall we do?" he said, when suddenly it struck him that all they needed to do was to find a man fat enough to fit the stake. The servants were immediately sent all over the town looking for a man who would fit the stake, and their eyes fell on the disciple who had fattened himself for months on bananas and rice and wheat and ghee. And actually the servants prepared the steak for the merchant to be hanged, but that was made too big for that merchant, because merchant was very thin and they made the very big size stake. So this is a rule that somebody must be hanged if once the stake is prepared. So the king was worried, and the ministers advised that now for this stake we must get somebody who can fit to the size of this stake, so we can hang him to death, because this was the kingdom of fools, you know. They can make such foolish decisions and judgments. And they caught that disciple who was living in that kingdom and was eating, you know, a cheap rate, bananas, rice, ghee and all that thing, you know. And they caught him because he was very fat, eating very cheap things. What have I done wrong? I'm innocent. I'm a sannyasi. He cried. That may be true, but it is the royal decree that we should find a man fat enough to be fit stake, they said, and carried him to the place of execution. He remembered his wise guru's words now. This is a city of fools. You don't know what they will do next. While he was waiting for the death, he prayed to his guru in his heart, asking him to hear his cry wherever he was. The guru saw everything in the vision. He had magic powers. He could see far, and he could see the future as he could see the present and the past. He arrived at once to save his disciple, who had got himself into such a scrap through love of food. So they brought that disciple to the court, to the execution place of the and he was fit to stake, and he was brought there, and he remembered his wise guru's words that this is a place, this is city of fools, they could do anything with you anytime, so we should not live here. So he remembered his guru, and his guru appeared in the court of the king. He arrived at once. As soon as he arrived, he scolded the disciple and told him something in whisper. In whispering, in low voice, he said to his disciple. Then he went to the king and addressed him, "O wisest of kings, who is greater, the guru or the disciple?" "Of course, the guru, no doubt about it. Why do you ask?" "Then put me to the stake first, put my disciple to death after me." They made a plan to save, because these people are foolish. When the disciple heard this, he understood. He began to clamor. Me first. Clamor means crying, shouting. "You brought me here first, put me to death first, not him." The guru and the disciple now got into a fight about who should go first. The king was puzzled by this behavior. He asked the guru, "Why do you want to die? Who chose him?" "Because we needed fat man for the stake." And the guru and the disciple, they started fighting to die first. They were making this, you know, all drama, and they planned something to save. And the king asked, "Why do you want to die?" "You should not ask me such questions. Put me to death first," replied the guru. "Why? There is something mystery, some mystery here. As a wise man, you must make me understand." "Will you promise to put me to death if I tell you?" asked the guru. The king gave him the solemn word. The guru took him aside out of serpent's earshot and whispered to him, "Do you know why we want to die right now? The two of us, we have been all over the world, but we have never found a city like this or a king like you. That stake is the stake of God of justice. It's new. It has never had a criminal on it. Whoever dies on it first will be reborn as the king of this country. and whoever goes next will be the future minister of this country. We are sick of our ascetic life, this ascetic life, saint's life. It would be nice to enjoy ourselves as the king and minister for a while. Now keep your word, my lord, and put us to death. Me first, remember. The king was now thrown into deep thought. The Guru said that the person who will die first will become the king of this country, and the person who dies next will become the minister. And hearing these words, the king was in deep thought. He did not want to lose the kingdom to someone else in the next round of life. He needed time, so he ordered the execution postponed to the next day and talked in secret with his ministers. It is not right for us to give over the kingdom to others in the next life. Let's go on the stake ourselves, and we will be reborn as king and minister again. Holy men do not tell lies, he said, and the minister agreed. So he told the executioners, we will send the criminals tonight. When the first man comes to you, put him to death first. Then do the same to the second. Those are my orders. Don't make any mistake. That night, the king and his ministers went secretly to the prison, released the Guru and disciple, disguised themselves as the two, and as arranged for beforehand with loyal servants, were taken to the stake and promptly executed. When the bodies were taken down, thrown to crows and the vultures, to the people panicked. They saw before them the dead bodies of king and the minister. The city was confusion. All night they mourned and discussed the future of the kingdom. Some people suddenly thought of the Guru and the disciple and caught up with them as they were preparing to leave town unnoticed. We people need a king and minister, said someone. Others agreed. They begged the Guru and the disciple to be their king and their minister. It did not take many arguments to persuade the disciple, but it took longer to persuade the Guru. They finally agreed to rule the kingdom of the foolish king and the silly ministers on the condition that they could change all the old laws. From then on, night would again be night and day would again be day, and you could not get nothing for a doo-doo. It became like any other place. So, students, this is the story. And when Guru told the king that the person who would die the first, he would be the king next in next birth, and the person who dies next, he would be the minister in second life. So the king thought and discussed with his minister at night, and he postponed the execution of the death. And at night he ordered his servants that we will send two persons, and the person we send first, you will hang him to death, and the second, you will hang him to death, and these are the orders. So the king thought that king wanted to become the king again in the next birth, and the minister wanted to become minister in the next birth. So they both went at night, they both went to prison. They released the Guru and disciple, and they disguised as Guru and disciple. They worn their clothes, and the servants executed the stake, and both were died, hanged to death. And the people in the morning saw the bodies of the king and the minister, and they were very taken aback. They mourned, cried that now what will happen of this city. And finally they thought about the Guru and the disciple, and they went to the Guru and the disciple. They requested to become the king and the minister of their city, their country. And finally Guru and disciple agreed to rule their country, but on the condition that they would change these old laws, and as usually there will be the routine and the rules will be same as the other places, and the day people will work in the daytime and will sleep at night, and everything will not be given in one do for one do. So all things rules were changed and Guru and disciple started living there. This is the story in the kingdom of fools, how Guru and the disciple changed the rule, and this is all about of this story, and we have finished this chapter. I'll send you the homework, the question answers of this chapter you will do in your fair notebook, and we'll start your next chapter in your next class. Thank you so much. Have a nice time.